Hey guys, HardlyBriefDan here with another episode of the Unity Make an RPG series. Today we're going to continue working on the inventory system that we started a few videos ago. Before I get really in depth with the inventory system, or more in depth, excuse me, I want to show you guys how to create a list, a scrollable list inventory system. So instead of I'm going to press play real fast. Instead of this slot prefab here, this slot-based inventory that you'd see in a lot of MMOs like World of Warcraft and such. I want to show you guys how to create a scrollable list, more like Skyrim. It's not going to mimic Skyrim, obviously, but it's gonna have the same effect where you can scroll through items instead of choosing in a big backpack slot-looking window. So here, I'm going to go ahead and turn this inventory window off. I've created another window. I've called it Inventory List. Very simple. It has an image up here. Let me go to the scene view and show you. We have a panel, which is just the list itself. It's just a big panel. Has an image attached to it, which is just the background, right? So go ahead and make that white or gray. So we have the panel. We have an image up here. It can be the backpack icon or something you can think of. We have a text here. It can be the menu name. So if it's inventory, whatever, that's where you can put the window name. You can add on to this, put a little button here to exit out of the window. Maybe you want this to be up here. It's really up to you. I just want to show you that I've created that. I've also created an empty game object and attached a toggle group to it, and I clicked allow switch off. Now, in the last video we've done the same thing, which each button has a toggle, or it's a toggle, not a button, so you can toggle it on and off to show different things. The other thing I've done is created a item slot list prefab. I'll drag that into the scene here on our canvas, double click and show you what I've done. So I've created another panel that is just a backdrop of all this. It has a item slot background, which is just this black and gray part. We have the icon, which we can replace later in script, which is just the image on top of it. We have the item level over here. Maybe that's something you want to show. And the item name. These are all interchangeable. You can add whatever you want to this. It's just a prefab we're creating, so get as creative as you want. Maybe you want over here, if it's stackable in number, that shows how many is stacked. Maybe you want an overlay that show like a green overlay to show that it's a rare item, or whatever you want really. It's all to you, and you just want to go ahead and create that in a item slot prefab. Now, one thing I didn't include in this prefab we're going to add now is a component it's in layout, and it's called a layout element. And basically we want to click preferred height and width. So I've created this to a specific height and width for the window I want, and that's 275 pixels by 40 pixels. You don't have to do that if you want it to expand with the canvas and stuff. It's all up to you. Again, I created this specific size window and I want to keep it that way, so I'm using this preferred width and height. You can do flexible width and height or ignore the layout in general. It's up to you to play around. So basically this prefab also has a toggle component on it. I'll go ahead and leave this here. You can pause the video if you need to add this stuff. Again, a name, icons, and more text. Pretty simple. So we have this item slot prefab. I'm going to drag it down and replace the other one. I'm going to delete it out of our scene. If I can hit the delete button, there we go. Control S to save. So back to our inventory list window here. We need to create what we call a scroll rect. So I'm going to go to UI and I'm going to add an image. I'm going to call it scroll rect. And I'm going to drag it. I'm going to click this up here so I can drag the corners. I'm going to drag it to fit the size that I want. So this is up to you. Maybe you only want, this is going to be your scrollable view area. So maybe you only want to be able to view this much. And all this down here will not scroll. It's up to you. I want the whole window to do it. So I'm going to drag that corner and bring it down. Make sure it looks kind of even. A little bit more. So this will be our scrollable area. And to do that, we need to add a component. It's under UI, and it's called scroll rect. Now, there's going to be some variables here. I'll go ahead and explain them. We have this content variable that allows us to drag and drop the content that we want to scroll through. So we'll create a game object here in just a second, and we'll call it content, and we'll attach it to this. And that's where you can attach whatever you want the player to be able to scroll through, whether it's text, game objects, colors, texture, whatever. That's where you would put it. These horizontal and vertical allows horizontal movement or vertical movement. We only want vertical, so up and down. The movement type. I usually use clamped, which means it just goes up and down and stops where you leave it. Elastic is more like how the iPhone has, if you bounces back and forth. So if you scroll to the up some, it drags it and then bounces up. We'll go ahead and leave that to show you that effect. And then this is where you attach your scroll bars. We'll add a vertical one at the end of the video. So that's what we need for the scroll rect. Now, like I said, we're going to create another empty game object. I'm going to go to add component. We're going to go to layout and add a rect transform. I'm going to relabel this to content. I'm going to drag it and attach it, make it a child of our scroll rect. Okay. I'm going to readjust the size of it to fit the window. Let's make sure our Z is 0. Oop, click content again. Just fit it to your window. And we want to add a vertical, a UI element. It's a layout element of vertical group and a content size fitter. So we'll do content size fitter. I'm going to make a preferred size fit. And then we'll do another layout element of vertical layout group. So this allows you to add spacing and padding and stuff between the top, bottom, and between the buttons. And I'll explain that later on. Now, one other thing we need to add to our scroll rect, so click that on in the hierarchy, go to add component, UI. We want to add a mask. So this allows us to trigger the background, basically. This is going to be the background of the image and allows the scrollable content to appear on top of that image, which is up here. And I believe that's all we need for now. We're going to, in our scripts folder, in our inventory folder, I've added another, I have a script here I already wrote. I'm going to delete it. We're going to restart. So we have our inventory list. I created this new folder under the inventory folder. We're going to create a new C# script, and we're going to call this inventory list window. I'm going to open that up into, I'm going to freak out Visual Studio here. It's crashing on me. Reload all. So basically what happened was I had ran this before, and I started working on the video before, but didn't turn out well. So I'm going to redo it. Anyways, we have our inventory list window here. We're gonna need model behavior, start and update and all that stuff. But I'm gonna jump into our inventory window, the script that we worked on last time. Zoom in a bit so you can see it. And I'm gonna copy a whole bunch of stuff that we need. First off, we need our game object prefab in this toggle group. So I'm gonna hit Control C on the keyboard, copy that, jump back into our inventory list window class, Control V to paste. Go back into the inventory window. We want the X and Y position, so copy that. Don't mind this underline error. We'll fix that in just a moment. What else do we need? We need this game object item slot. And that should be it. So, and we're actually going to need another game object, but we'll add that in just a moment. So the other thing we need to add now is for this toggle group error to go away. We need to add the Unity engine.ui. And that just allows us to access these members, these types. So the other thing we need to add again is another public variable. So we're going to add public, public, not pun, public game object. This is going to be our content. We'll just call it content. This is where we're going to store all of our instantiated prefabs. So now I'm going to go into our inventory window. I'm going to copy this big inventory slot window method here. I'm going to highlight it, Control C to copy. Go into our inventory list below the update function, Control V to paste. And now we're going to just start adding and deleting stuff we don't need. So the first thing I know we don't need is this item slot count. Get rid of that. We don't need this if statement. Get rid of that. Let's see. We don't need this list. We're not doing that right now. Again, I'm just showing you the functionality of it. It's not going to, hopefully you guys have learned enough in the past videos to kind of add your flair and stuff to it. The starting X and Y position, we'll go ahead and delete that because we're going to set that at the start. We don't need that. Slots count per page. So what we'll do here is we're going to say 10. And what you'd actually do here, let me write a comment, is you would do a game object find and look for the player. We'll say player's inventory and get the count of the inventory. So basically, instead of 10, you want to look for the base player component and look for its inventory and get the count, and that's how many objects we'll create. But we're not going to do that right now because I just want to create 10 of these prefabs to show you that it scrolls because we don't have enough items, or we'll actually probably do like 20 because we don't have enough items in our inventory to make it look like it's scrolling. So we'll do 20. We're going to instantiate the same prefab. We'll name it empty. That's fine. We don't really need to do that, but that's fine for now. Actually, we don't want to name it empty because it's going to have, we'll just name it i.toString. So whatever number it creates. And the reason why we're doing that is because we're not going to have any empty game objects. If the object there, it's going to be in our list. If it's not going to be in the list. We want to go ahead and add it to that toggle group. We're not going to use this list for now, so we'll delete that. We'll set its parent. Now, the parent we're going to set it to is the content game object that we set up top. So we'll say content, which is that variable we created, dot transform, oh, that's it. So content transform. Get component, the item slot, get component, rect transform, local position. We do need to set the position. We're going to go ahead, at the top, private int x, we're going to set that equal to 0, and the y position. These are our starting positions. They'll be 0. We want them to start at the top of our scroll rect. So 0, 0 for that. And this is where we really need to change. This x position plus equals the width of a rectangle. I'm going to grab the y position. I'm going to double click and control C to copy. I'm going to replace x, so control V to paste. And instead of adding, we want to subtract. And I'll show you what I mean by that. But basically, in Unity in just a moment, but basically we have a rectangle, and instead of building on top, we want to build from top to bottom. So we want to add them below it. And we don't want to add it with the width of the rectangle, we want to do the height. So we'll do .rect.height. Control S to save, and this should be it. Hopefully everything works. We need to go ahead and drag and drop our public variables or the content to those variables. So go make sure you Control S to save, go into Unity. We're going to attach the inventory list window script to our inventory list. You'll see it there. We have these whole bunch of things we need to go ahead and drag. Drag our content here to the content variable. Drag this prefab we created onto the prefab, and our toggle group will be the toggle group variable. Now, hopefully, I can press play. Well, actually, we need to add one more code. In our start method here, we want to go ahead and call that function. So we'll say create window. So hopefully, if everything works, we could scroll. So here we go. We have a list here. It's not allowing me to scroll. So we'll figure that out in just a moment. I believe that has to do with our content size fitter, which is our content. Why is that doing that? Preferred, yeah. Let me make sure all this is correct. Keep messing with this, and I keep screwing it up somehow. Looks like it should work. I'm not sure what I did wrong here. You'll do a little debugging. You can see that the highlighting, we got our list to work fine. Oh, our scroll rect is missing its content, so we'll go ahead and drag the content. So that's the last thing I forgot. So basically, if you don't have, I didn't attach the content to the contact variable in the scroll rect. If you don't do that, then it's not going to allow you to scroll. You see that we did attach all the game objects to it, but it didn't allow us to have that scrolling effect, which is what we're after. So excuse me, sorry for that. But go ahead and drag the content onto the scroll rect content variable. We'll go ahead and press play again, and we should be able to scroll now. So you see we're scrolling. This is the elastic effect I was talking about. If you don't want that, you want a clamped effect, which I like a little bit more. It's going to be more precise. And you can add the deceleration and change all that you want. So again, works really well. I like it. This is a cool idea. If you don't like the item icon, I wanted to show you guys this. And this is usable in other spots too. Don't just think this is for inventories. If you want another scrollable window for item text, for quest text, anything like that, that's all. You can do that all here. And that's what's perfect about this. It's usable anywhere. It's not just in one spot. I just wanted to show you, kind of explain how creating a scrollable window works. So if maybe you know someone that needs help with scrollable windows, they can use this tutorial for that as well, not just with inventory systems. Now, I did say I want to add a vertical scroll bar, so we'll go ahead and do that next. Jump into Unity. Again, we are going to click the inventory list panel, create a new UI element. It's going to be a scroll bar. So you see it here. Direction is going to be from top to bottom, like that. We're going to drag it to the side. I'm just going to adjust the size a little bit, make it look a little bit better. Don't mind the X. I honestly couldn't tell you why it does that all the time. I've messed with it so much. It has something to do with it not being visible, but it's always visible in the game for me. Maybe you guys can tell me, write it in the comments below. But basically, you can change anything you want. It acts like a button. You can do animation as you use it, the sprite swap as you use it. It's up to you. You can set the values of it, which we will do, the size and the number of steps. Basically, the only thing I change here is the value, so we're going to make it start from the top every time. We'll set it equal to 1. That's about it. So now we clicked our scroll rect. Remember, we have these two variables here for vertical and horizontal. We have a vertical scroll bar, so we don't want to click it and drag it to that position. And now I'll press play, and you see it usually starts in the middle, but it adjusts, and we can click that. You can still click inside the window to adjust, but if you want to use the scroll bar, it's going to be more precise and clamped down. Hey guys, so I paused the video briefly to figure out what was happening with our scroll bar and why I couldn't get it to work to show you guys. Basically, it's a simple mistake, and what we'll do is add it, or fix it. So we have our inventory list. You need to go ahead and make sure the scroll rect and scroll bar are children of the inventory list. That's one thing. The scroll bar here, I just adjusted its size, so go ahead and do that if you want. I did change the direction to bottom to top, meaning that 0 is the starting point and 1 is the bottom. And what we need to do, instead of in code, let me open up the script again. Inventory list, here's our script. I'm going to open up Visual Studio. Instead of setting our value to 1 here, I went ahead and commented this out. Instead of setting our value to 1, we don't actually want to do that. And I read on the forums on Unity that that's actually generally not advised to mess with that after the frame is after we create the content. So go ahead and get rid of that. We're not going to do that. What we want to do is click the content. So under our scroll rect, our content, we want to set the pivot point to 1. So if it's set to 0.5, we can go into Unity, and you'll see it starts right in the middle. It's starting in the middle. What we want to do though is start at the top. So you set the content pivot point, the Y, to 1. And it will adjust the scroll bar to start at the top of our content. And you see it scrolls all the way down. All 20 items are here. We can look at our scroll bar here. So let's see. We start at the top. Click that one. Go up to 0. Make sure it's on. It's on, off. You can see down the inspector. So that we know that's our first one. We can go down here and click. Let's look at 19. This should be our last one. We know that's on and off. So we're looking at the entire list of 20 items. But that's how you fix the scroll bar. You want to play with the content pivot point and not the scroll bar value itself. So hopefully you understand that. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. Hopefully me or someone else that's watched this video can help explain more if you have any issues. I do want to show you that you can adjust the image of the scroll rect, this color if you want it. So if you want it to be darker, maybe you can set it to a bit darker so you can kind of see the content better. Again, that's just a mask that we set. Anyways, hope you guys learned something in the video. Please like, subscribe, comment, pass it along to your friends and family and stuff. They want to learn how to code in C# and stuff. That's it for this video. I'll talk to you guys next time.